YouTube video where today we're going to be trying out the alpha rules for the new Kings of War Vanguard skirmish game. So I've got with, I'm Andy Sharp, and I've got with me today
Kev Honeysett.
And we've played a game or so, and we've been looking at these alpha rules for a while, so we know a little bit about how it plays. We play a lot of Kings of War as well. But obviously it's a new game. The rules we have are the current edition, but they may change before it goes to Kickstarter, or they might even change. Obviously they will change as it develops over the course of more playtesting. As I hope lots of people will get on board with this, because certainly our initial experience has been very positive.
Yeah, it's great.
So we'll have a little look at what we're doing. We're just running the two sample lists from the alpha rules as they are, and the basic scenario that's at the back. We might make a few rule mistakes, but hopefully we'll get most of the things right. And I'll be bringing the Abyssals, and Kev, what are you bringing?
I'm bringing Undead, which is a big change for me because I haven't played good armies.
Cool. Fantastic. Right, we'll come back in a second. So one of the key features of Vanguard is power dice. So this is where you use these dice to influence special abilities that you can have during the game, and you can use them to roll for fatigue and do special group actions as well. So the power dice range in strength from the weakest, so the red dice here, then the medium ones, which is the white ones, and the strongest, which is the blue ones. And you can see here that these have got 1 or 2 markers on them. These white ones have 1 and 2 as well, but more frequent than the red ones. And then the blue one can go up to 3, and has hardly any blanks. I think just 1 blank on that one. So these are the same dice as there are from The Walking Dead. That's what we're using. And so far that seems to be exactly the same style of dice with the same number of pips that they'll be using in Vanguard as well. The other thing we'll do is that we're using activations will be shown by little green markers, and if we fatigue models there'll be blue markers put down beside them. So this is the battlefield that we're going to be playing over. It's a 3 by 3 foot map is what we'll be using. And this is the standard scenario at the end of the game. Oh, Kev's already put some miniatures down, jeez. So this will be one side, bordered by the road here. There's some obstacles here, there's just some sort of scatter terrain. Another obstacle here, and another one here. The road this side, where the miniatures are deployed at the moment, is where the edge of the board will be. There's one item here that needs to be collected. There's another one in the centre here where the skeleton's already trying to get it. And in the building over here there is another one as well in the garden. There's obstacles over there and a bit of difficult terrain over this side with the woods and the rocky area. So this is going to be what we'll be playing on, and we'll see who gets to go which side in a moment. Okay, so this is the 100-point warband for Abyssals that I'm bringing. I have a lower Abyssal here with the standard. I have 2 flame bearers, and then I have the Tormentor here on the left, and 2 Abyssal Guard who will be having their shields. That's how you'll be able to tell them different. Then we have our Abyssal Warlock being played by this Ifrit, because we don't really have a model for an Abyssal Warlock yet. Obviously there might be one in the Kickstarter, who knows. And then we've got 2 Succubi, and then at the back we've got 2 Gargoyles who can fly as their main ability. So a relatively small warband, certainly as you'll see in a second compared to what Kev has brought, but hopefully they'll be able to do some damage. Yeah, so where do you want to start with? The ghouls?
The ghouls, yeah. Yeah, so this is 100 points of Undead, which I have the luxury of more models. I start with 3 speedy ghouls in green, a necromancer to lead them. Mortibris himself has come out today. We've got 3 zombies. In Vanguard, I think that's a horde or a pack of zombies. We've then got 3 revenants in blue, and 2 skeletons behind them in red. And then to cap it off, a werewolf and the shadowy figure of a wraith at the back.
I won the dice off to choose sides, so I started deployment. So you do alternate deployment, 1 model each. So I started, and then Kev would place one of his, and then I would go on. So I put a gargoyle here. They can fly. That's quite handy over this dense terrain. There's an objective over there. And then I've got a central core here with 2 Abyssal Guards, a Succubi, a Lower Abyssal and my Tormentor. I've got another little sort of combat group here, a slightly more shooty one with my Abyssal Warlock, 2 Flame Bearers and a Succubi, and then supporting them I've got a Gargoyle here. And Kev has over his side, past the geese, we've got a Wraith here, we've got 2 skeletons, his little group of ghouls, mob of zombies I should say.
That's the horde of zombies.
Yeah, the horde of zombies. He's got his Necromancer supported by all 3 Revenants. Then he's got his 3 ghouls and his werewolf on the end. And that is our deployment. So before we do anything else, we should roll for power dice. So let's see how many you get, Kev.
So I get 3 as standard, and then my Necromancer gives me an extra 2 white dice.
So white dice are more powerful than the reds.
As you can see, the white dice are more powerful than the reds.
So just 3.
So just
3. So that's not particularly strong. I get 3 base, so every faction always gets 3 base, and then I get 3 extra for my Tormentor. So these are not as good in theory as the white ones. So let's see what they roll. And I get 4. So there we are. So I start with 4 power, and Kev starts with 3 power. So as it's a new game, we're going to forget things. So there is a extra rule that you can re-roll any command dice at the start of each turn, up to the number of command models you have in your faction. So the Necromancer for the Undead is a command model, so Kev can re-roll 1 dice and he gets another point of power. And for me, I can re-roll 1 red dice and I get another one as well. So I ended up on 5 and Kev ends up on 4. So we've done a few actions at this turn. We just thought we'd cut through the action first. So a Gargoyle's gone charging up there to sit on that objective. Another Gargoyle and the Succubi have moved up towards this building because they're quite fast. We've got a couple of skeletons that have advanced here. Now they've actually run, can you believe it? Because they can in this game, there's no shambling in this game. And then we've got a Ghoul and a Revenant who've moved into the centre here. So this Ifrit has run up here. He has then fatigued to do another short action. He can only do a short action that he hasn't already done. So he's going to do a short action of Fireball onto that Ghoul that has moved rather carelessly into the middle of the battlefield there. Now on the downside, he's a little bit out of my range, but my special ability for this particular character is range boost. And you can give him another 6 inches of range, which will now make that Ghoul within range of his Fireball, because it's about 12 inches away, and Fireball is normally 9 inches. But it's going to cost me 2 power to do that. I have 5 power, so it's going to cost me a fair chunk, but there's not a lot else I'm really going to use power for this turn because we're really just positioning. It's going to become much more important, the power, when we start getting into combat and shooting at much closer range in a moment. So we'll come back in a second when we see what he does with that spell. Okay, so here we are. The Fireball gives me 2 dice. I'll be rolling the blue dice, so these are D8, and it's based on my range attack ability, which is 5+ for the Abyssal Warlock. So here we go, 2 dice. It's not a clear shot because that wheelbarrow is in the way. If it had been, I'd get 1 extra dice. So 2 dice, and we get a 5 and a 6, which means that they're both hits. So now we need to roll 2 dice against the armour value of the Ghoul.
Well, before we do that, the Ghoul has dodge. So I can force you to re-roll 1 ranged hit.
Okay, so here's one of those successes being re-rolled, and it is still a success. So 2 successes, which means that the Ghoul now has to roll 2 dice against his armour value.
And his armour value is 6.
Okay. So he's a 6+, and we've got 1 which misses. And an 8 which explodes. So that means that you can roll again, and if he gets another 6+, he will save it. So he actually ends up saving them because that exploding 8, and if you play Dead Zone, you'll know all about exploding 8s. So that keeps that Ghoul alive. How frustrating. So just a little catch up, we've had a little bit more movement. So zombies came forwards, Revenants came forwards, the rest of the Ghouls came forwards, and my Abyssals came forwards, both here and these 2 Flame Bearers here. What I did do was I moved up this group, I moved them up individually, but then I spent a fatigue point to move this guy for a short move action because he'd done a long action. So again, he's not repeating the action, but I did that out of sequence. So I'd actually finished all my movement and then I did it with this guy. That cost me a power dice, but you can do that in the rules. So it's a chance to react to what your opponent has done. The only reason I did that was to get myself into a potential slightly better position for the next round, if I get to charge, for instance. And now Kev is going to do what, Kev?
So I'm going to burn 2 power to use my army special rule, and I can surge all friendly warrior models within 12 inches of my necromancer or my command model. The only warrior models I've got are revenants, so they can now make a free walk action.
So, you know, unlike other games and Kings of War, for instance, Undead are actually quite mobile here. I mean, sure, you have to pay power for it, but they're not really necessarily short of power, and that really does allow them to sort of move a little bit more than they would otherwise do. The only downside is that in this starter list, at least, the only warriors are revenants, so all the other troops, as it were, you know, the ghouls, the zombies, the skeletons, are all grunts, and therefore they don't benefit from that rule. So I'm just going to talk about this interesting thing. Kev had this wraith, and he was considering charging into this gargoyle with a forced fatigue action, but actually, reading the rules more carefully, we could see that you can only do that after doing your activations, and therefore what Kev would have had to do would basically make a long action to run to about here, and then to walk into combat as a fatigue action, but then he would lose the benefit of the charge, and so therefore that would be less good for his character. So in the end, he's decided that he'd go over this way. So there's a slight differences on how fatigue works. It isn't as, you can't use it just when you want to. There are certain rules on how to use it. So this is the end of the first round. You can see that we've got some faster abyssals over this side, some skeletons here, lots and lots of undead in the centre of the battlefield here, facing off against some abyssals this side, and we've got a little bit of a standoff from the flyer and the other fast-moving werewolf over this side as well. So at the end of the round, the only other thing we need to do is to see if there's anything we need to take away. So I can take away both of these fatigue points that I have by spending a power dice on each of them, so I will do that. There's no other benefit of not using that, because the power dice will disappear anyway at the end of this round, and we will re-roll them all at the beginning of the next. So start round 2, this was my dice roll, so I got 1 blank. I got quite a good roll there, so that's 7 power for me, and Kev got 1 blank, and he's got 2 on his whites and 4 on his reds for 6 power. Now we both had already re-rolled one of our power dice, and I gained 1 extra power for now, but Kev got another blank again. So. Okay, so my first activation of turn 2 is I'm going to use my Abyssal Warlock, played by the Efreet here. He's going to use 2 power, so that's why I've left that dice out there, to boost the range of his fireball. His fireball normally has a 9-inch range, but that wouldn't be far enough to get these guys, so I'm going to boost it to give it a 15-inch range, which takes it beyond those ghouls. However, I'm also going to boost his fireball, so this is something you can do with a lot of spells, in fact all spells, not all spells, but most spells. You can get a slightly better version by doing something different, either paying power or changing it from a short action to a long action. So for fireball, it goes to a long action, and instead of being a single model that's hit, actually a big sort of stream of fire comes down on these, and it's a sort of a column of fire the length of my base all the way across it. I actually hit all 3 of those ghouls there. They'll all be hit by the fireball, and also it counts as it being a clear shot, which will give me a bonus 1 dice. Now we're going to assume, because it's not quite clear from the rules, that I roll once, and that's the damage that every target in the line gets hit with, because that's similar to what you would do in Dead Zone. So I'm going to have 3 dice now, 2 base and then 1 for the clear shot. My ranged attack is 5+, so we get to roll nothing. Absolutely nothing.
These are fireproof ghouls. Have you not learned that yet?
Yeah, that's terrible. Oh well, it was a good plan. What I could have done, and I probably should have done, thinking about it, would be throw an extra dice in that by spending 1 more power to make absolutely certain that I tried to kill them. But considering I rolled nothing anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so I'm going to spend 2 power to do a group activation. So the group activation allows me to pick 1 model, which is going to be this one, and then I can activate 2 other models which are within 3 inches of him, which in this case is both the other 2 Revenants, and they will do a group charge onto this guy here.
And they're all well within range, we have measured that already. So they'll all be hitting him in his front. So we actually reposition this, so we recheck the rule on group charges, and you don't have to charge the same target. So one of these Revenants has hit into this lower Abyssal, and 2 have gone into the Abyssal Guard. So Kev, what are you rolling?
So the Revenants have 3 dice for melee. I get +1 dice for charging, and I get +1 dice here because I have a friend in the combat.
Lovely.
And the Revenants hit on 5s.
Excellent. So you can see there
the first attack,
great roll. I now get to defend. I have 1 dice. I have to defend against using my armour. My armour is 4+. There's no crushing strength on the Revenants, I presume?
There's no crushing strength.
Okay, so a 4+. So I take a wound. I have 2 wounds, so he has taken a wound first off. We'll put that red marker down so that it can show that he's wounded. So now I have the option of retaliating against one of these guys, which I will do, because if I was able to kill him, then that would obviously mean that the other guy then doesn't get the outnumbering bonus from that. Now, to retaliate, I need to, if I'm activated or fatigued, I can retaliate as long as I've only got 1 of those, but if I've got both activated and fatigued, then I won't be able to retaliate at all. So I'll be able to retaliate to the first attack and actually to the second attack as well, but if there were a 3rd model there, I wouldn't be able to do a 3rd retaliation. So we'll just mark him as fatigued because he is going to retaliate. So I am going to retaliate. I have 2 dice. I get no modifiers. I have a melee of 5+. I do have crushing strength if I manage to do any damage. So 5 pluses. Let's see. We've got 1. That's 7 there. So Kev will now have to make a save against that 7. So your defense is what?
So the Revenant's defense is, their armour is 4. But it goes so that's modified to 5.
Okay, so he doesn't get that. So that's a 3.
The Revenant
also takes a wound.
Now he has 2.
Yeah, so you can't retaliate to a retaliate though, so that is the end of that one-on-one combat. Both of these models have taken 1 wound. They both have 2 in total, so neither of them are dead yet. And obviously, if they had been killed, they wouldn't be able to retaliate. So we're left with this other Revenant who can try and kill my Abyssal Guard, and if I don't die, then I can retaliate to him as well.
So again, 5 dice on 5s.
Right, so that's a lot better roll, and we have an 8 there, so that will explode.
So that's 4 potential wounds.
So I get to save against these 4 wounds on my armour of 4+. I need to save all of them. Oh. He does! With 2 8s, so 8s would also explode on armour rolls. But
that's all you need.
I don't need to roll those, so fantastic. He has survived that. And now I can retaliate to that second Revenant. To retaliate to him, it will mark me as activated as well. So we'll put a little green marker beside my guy as well, as all of the undead in a second. But it's worth it because I might be able to do some damage on him. So I've got 2 dice, I'm hitting on 5s. And we got 2 there, so Kev will need to make 2 saves. And he's using my dice. Did you see that? He's using my dice.
Yeah, because they're so good. So your secret's out now. So that's 1 wound.
So with the 8 exploded, the crushing strength would have modified his save from 4 to 5, but he ends up taking 1 wound. So we've actually all ended up taking 1 wound in that combat, and all 3 models are activated. So we have a combat here. So this is 1 Revenant against a lower Abyssal, so it's less good than the one we've just been fighting.
So this time I don't have a buddy in the combat, so 3 dice normally for the Revenant and then 1 for charging. And I'm looking for 5s, so I can re-roll for the 8. 2 hits.
Okay, so I get to survive now on my armour of 5+. For this guy, so the armour's less good. And he doesn't get either of those. He only had 1 wound anyway, so my Revenant, my lower Abyssal has been removed as a casualty. because he is a grunt and he has taken more wounds than his wound value.
So, having won a combat, I now get to make a free follow-up move, which is a short, a normal move of up to 3 inches. So I will move him into combat with this guy, which will stop him getting a charge bonus.
Yeah, so it engages me, but it doesn't initiate another combat. So my next activation was to move this succubi all the way from over here by that gargoyle, charging into the rear of one of these revenants. And I am going to benefit from charging, obviously, so that will give me an extra dice. So she normally gets 3d8, so I've got 4, and then I get a friend, because I've got a little guy on the other side who's also engaged with him. That will take me to 5. I'm hitting on 5 pluses, and also if I do any wounds, because I'm attacking him whole, I started my charge wholly in his rear, and rear is taken across from the very back point of the base, not the middle of the base. Then he'll actually have 1 less on his armour, which for the Revenants is quite good because they actually save on 4 pluses normally, so taking that to 5s is good. So here we go, let's see what we get. Oh yes, so that's quite nice. We get 3 hits, but obviously 2 of those are 8s, so we're going to roll those again. And actually that takes us up to 4 hits. So Kev will have to make 4 saves. And this guy's already wounded. He normally saves on armour 4, but he actually has armour 5. And he saves 2 of them, but that means he dies.
Oops.
And I'm going to make a 3-inch follow-up move now into the other one. And I will be sat next to him, engaged with him as well.
So we're going to do another group charge, which is another 2 power. We're going to charge these 2 ghouls running around the obstacle into
We're both going for the succubi there.
the succubi, and then this one's going to come around here and come into. Actually, he's going to go like that.
Okay, so we'll just explain a little bit about. I was facing the wrong way, Kev.
I'm trying to get tactical.
So we'll just explain a little bit about that. So that costs 2 power, obviously, to do that group thing. They all have to be within 3 inches at the start, and they all have to end within 3 inches as well. They don't have to charge the same target. The 2 who've gone into the succubi, the way we think the rule is that you can, if you've got enough movement, and these guys will charge 12, which has plenty of movement, you can see it's only a few inches, they can sweep around that obstacle, and therefore they maintain their charge bonus dice. If they'd had to run over an obstacle, they would lose that dice. This one going against the Abyssal Guard, his downside is that he won't, although he's charging into the rear, he didn't start in the rear, so therefore he won't get the benefit on the armour because...
Actually, I think he did start
in the rear. Actually, no, to be fair, he did start in the rear, so he'll get a benefit for the negating the armour as well then by hitting this guy. But he really does need to face where he's going. So we'll change that in a second.
So I'm going to do this ghoul first.
Which one?
The one in orange. Sure. So 3 dice base.
The Andy Ransom ghoul.
The Andy Ransom ghoul, yeah. I've nicked it. 1 for charging and 1 because he's got a mate.
And what are you hitting on?
And I'm hitting on 5s.
So it's
1
3 with an 8. Oh,
another 8.
Oh, this is a very unhappy succubi, I think. Right, so what's that? 6? Is it 5?
So that's 5 hits.
Unfortunately, she survives. She does her armour roll. Sorry, I keep saying survives because it's dead zone. She does her armour roll on a 6+, which is going to be tough to do. So she only managed to save 1 of those, which is absolutely going to muller her. So she is dead from the first attack with no chance of retaliating. So both of those guys, because it was a group action, will be able to make a follow-up move at the end of the group attack. So we need to do the other one first.
Yeah, okay. So the ghoul attacking here, 3 dice base, 1 for charging, and then 1 because there is the Revenants in combat with him. And I'm hitting on 5s.
Oh, another 8. So we've got 3 at the minute with an 8.
So 3 hits.
And now my armour for this guy is a bit better. It's 4+. What would have been important here is that he did start in the rear, didn't he? So actually my armour then is reduced by 1, so he goes to 5 pluses. So this is really important. He's already wounded as well, remember. So if I even fail 1 of these, he'll be dead. Oh, I've got 2 at the minute. That one has failed, so I need a 5+ on this last dice. No, so he is dead. And even if he hadn't died, he wouldn't have been able to retaliate because he's both activated and fatigued.
Okay.
And now Kev can make follow-up actions, follow-up moves I should say, with each of his models that are now no longer engaged, that were part of that group action.
So he'll walk in here.
So my ability to sort of react has been quite nerfed by this.
I think these guys will just reposition, like so.
Okey doke. So my next activation, I'm just going to use this Flame Bearer. He's going to fire into the rear of the Revenant there. So that's he's got a 9-inch range. He normally rolls 2 dice, hitting on 5s. And because he's in the rear of that guy, he'll actually get Piercing 1 added to his ability. But his Firebolt actually has Piercing 1 anyway, so that'll go to Piercing 2. So against the Revenant with quite good armour, that's not bad. So I like that a lot. So I will start with 2 dice, but because he's also in the clear, I get an extra dice, and I'm going to spend this 1 power that I've put down here to give him 1 extra dice, which hopefully will also come up with. That'd be a nice roll if that actually was my roll. That'd be really handy. So it's going to mean 4 dice, hitting on 5s, firing at that Revenant with a Firebolt. Let's see what we got. So we got 2 successes, which could have been better, but that's 2 successes, and I hope that now his armour is actually goes from 4+ to 6+. We only need to do 1 wound, and we do get the 1 wound, so that will take off that.
So he's on 2 wounds, which is 0, isn't it?
Yeah, so actually we now need to check something in the rules. So if you are not a grunt, and he is not, you actually have something called down, but there's a potential that he isn't dead. So he now has to make a nerve test, and his nerve is it 6+?
6+.
And so he passes his nerve, which means he is knocked down. He would be activated if he wasn't already, and fatigued if he wasn't already, but he is. He's not fatigued though, actually, is he? So he does get fatigued. So it's a way of sort of keeping them alive. The slightly higher caliber warriors, the grunts will just die. But if I'd have done that 1 extra damage, then he would have been definitely off. And if he'd have failed his nerve, he would also have died. So I'm going to spend 1 power dice to activate this other Flame Bearer, and this guy's going to take out the ghoul there, which actually is this Ghast model. I don't like the look of him. He looks a little bit scary, so we'll try and take him out. It is a clear shot again, but it is not in his rear, so I will get 3 dice. And I will need 5s on these, with just Piercing 1 this time. So I missed with 2, but I did get an 8. And I got 2 hits. Now, I think the armour of a ghoul should be pretty ropey.
It is, but you have to reroll one of those because of his dodge.
Ah, damn. So I'll reroll 1 of these successes then. Still a success. So 2.
So the ghoul's armour is 6.
But it's actually Piercing 1 anyway, so it would go to 7. So but he has failed them
and
both.
He only has 1. He's a grunt.
Yeah, so he only has 1 wound anyway. And even if he didn't, he wouldn't benefit from that that rule that we've just described. So what we've just done here is this werewolf of Kev's has charged from where his position was behind the wood at my gargoyle. Now Kev tried everything he possibly could to see if he could get around and still get a full charge without going through behind this obstacle, but he couldn't because going through the woods would have cost him 2 inches per inch he travelled. So he ended up charging my guy, and we're going to count this this wagon as an obstacle, which will have an effect on the attack because Kev won't get the bonus dice for charging because I'm behind an obstacle, and also I'll get an extra bonus to my armour. Sorry, that's because he couldn't see me, sorry, at the start of the turn. Yeah. I'll get a bonus to my armour because I'm on the other side of an obstacle. So Kev, I think you're on 4 d8s, aren't you?
I'm on 4 dice, I don't get any bonuses, and I'm on 4s to hit. And the werewolf is vicious, so I can re-roll any ones.
Oh, to another one.
Yeah, so 2 hits.
2 hits. So my gargoyle is not the best, shall we say. He has an armour of 6+, but as we said, we get a bonus.
And he's crushed 2.
Alright, so I go to 5+, but then I go down by 2 to 7+. So, this may be a very unhappy gargoyle at the moment. I do have 2 wounds, but let's see if I can save either of those. I do not. So he takes both his wounds, it takes him to 0. He is a support, so that means he could potentially be down and not out. That depends on me having a nerve roll. My nerve is 6+, so I need to get a success on this to keep him in the game and just be activated and knocked down. If I fail this, he will be dead. Yes! So he's still sort of alive. He gets knocked down and activated, but he is not dead. When he stands back up again, or if he gets to stand back up again, he will do so on 1 wound. So the next activation, I am going to take my Succubi and I'm going to charge her around here into this Revenant. I'm going to try and kill this Revenant. Now, because the Revenant is on the floor, although I didn't have line of sight when I started to charge, I still get the bonus 1 dice for charging because he's knocked down. And also, if I do any damage on him at all, which will also count as charging in the rear, then he'll die. So there's none of that shenanigans that we had before. So I get 3 d8s and a bonus 1 for charging a knocked down model. And I am hitting on 5s. Oh dear. 1. That could have gone better. That really could have gone better. So just the 1. Kev, do you want to make that save? It counts as crushing 1 though, so you're...
So 5.
And he doesn't get it. So that takes him down to 0, but because he's knocked down, he's actually killed. So that rule we had before no longer counts when you're knocked down. So there is a benefit in going into someone again if that happens. And I now have a follow-up move, which I will just go in to engage this ghoul. And that's the end of that activation. Okay, so my next activation will be to use my Tormentor, who's this guy at the back here, the Abyssal Champion model from Kings of War, being used as that. And he's just going to fight that ghoul that's in front of him. I'm hoping that I'll destroy him, and then I'll be able to follow up and support the Abyssal Guard fighting the Revenant, and hopefully end up taking both of those models off this round, which would be really nice. So he gets 4d8. I don't get any bonuses because I'm not charging. I started in combat with him, and melee is a long action, so I can't change anything after that unless I were to fatigue. So I'm going to roll my 4 dice, and I'm meleeing on 3 pluses.
Ouch.
Oh, that's pretty good. So we get 3 of them, and there's an 8 in there, so we'll roll an extra 1. And it's a 3 again, so we actually have 4 hits. He's crushing 2.
Is he? So the ghouls are looking for 8s then?
8s. Well, you can probably roll 8s.
Yeah, I need 4 8s.
Well, we got 1. So you can roll that again, obviously, because it's an 8. And so that is 1 dead ghoul. And then my follow-up move will be just to move in and support my buddy there, and we'll swap that activation to his. Over to you, Kev. So Kev has just moved his Wraith to charge to take out my Succubi. So how many dice do you get there, Kev?
So 2 dice I start, 1 for charging and 1 for
having a friend.
A friend already engaged.
Okay.
And I'm now on 5s actually for a Wraith.
Oh, fantastic!
1 hit.
Fantastic. So I will be saving. My armour is 6+.
And I'm crushing 1.
All right, so 7+. Oh, it loves it. So obviously I'm not going to bother re-rolling that extra 8 there. So this Abyssal Guard is now going to activate. He is going to fight the Revenant in front of him. He gets the bonus for an extra dice for having a friend in the combat as well. So I am now rolling 3 d8s on a melee value of 5+. And we... That cocked, yeah, cocked, so re-roll that one. Ah, why am I so honest? Just 1 hit. So I am crushing 1, so they'll be rolling on a 5. And he gets it, he loves that. So my next activation, sorry, Kev just did Kev did an activation there just to move that skeleton forwards. And then I have used my gargoyle to fly across here and hopefully take out this ghoul, freeing up this combat a little bit. So she gets 2 dice base. She gets an extra 1 for having a friend in the combat, and I get an extra 1 for having charged. So I will be rolling 4 dice, melee 5+. And that's 2 hits, and it's a normal save for that ghoul.
So I'm on 6s. Oh, nearly.
1. How many wounds do they have?
1.
And they are a grunt,
yeah.
aren't they? So that actually will kill that ghoul.
I'll just move that whip out of the way.
And then I'll make a follow-up move of 3 inches with her to move this way. I think that's fine. Doesn't specify how you move, because I don't want to. I could have gone in here, but then that would have left my rear exposed to potential for charging later. So that's much better for me. So Kev's moved his zombies forward. So I'm a bit concerned about those because they have a mob rule where they get bonuses, crushing strength, isn't it, for each extra model, so it's really nasty. Because of that, I'm actually going to spend this power dice to reactivate one of my models and make a short move action with this one, so that he will go there, and that will be more than 3 inches from this flame bearer, so that if Kev does do a group action with those zombies, he won't be able to hit both of these together. He'll either have to pick them to go for this guy or to go for these guys. So it might not make a huge difference, but at least it keeps some of my characters safe. So Kev, what have you just done there?
So I've used a power to fatigue this zombie into the succubi.
Right, okay, so no fight was generated, but it just sort of adds engagement, so that it gives modifiers to the dice. And obviously stops him running away potentially as well. And what else did you do? Did you raise any dead or?
And the Necromancer raised a new skeleton, which we've only got Revenant models for. So
yeah, so another skeleton got up there. And how do you go about raising a skeleton?
So the Raise Dead spell is a long action. So the Necromancer, that was his entire go. To activate him, and he creates a new skeleton anywhere within 3 inches of him.
Okay, those cheeky undead still moving. New bodies up from the ground. One of the reasons Kev fatigued that guy in was not only to support the combat, but he realised as well that my guy down here, my Abyssal Warlock, could potentially have started the turn by moving here and then zapping all the way down the line with that boosted spell that I tried earlier on to take out all 3 zombies in one go, and I must say I had spotted that. But anyway, not anymore.
So as we go into the end phase, I'll use the 1 remaining power I have to remove the fatigue.
And I'll do the same with 1 power that I have remaining to take that off the Ifrit. So I managed to get 8 power dice, again re-rolling 1, it came up with a plus, and Kev got 7, his re-roll again came back up with a blank. So we're fairly even Stevens. I think power will be really important in this game because, as you can see at the start of round 3, everything's pretty tight in the middle here. There's a few bodies gone down on either side. No one's really got the objectives sort of nailed down, but I think Kev's in a better position because that one looks pretty secure. He's a long way from me, and this one I think it's pretty clear he's going to come out on top here. So I'm expecting a victory for Kev, but you know, we'll go down fighting. I've got a few undead to put back in the ground, I think. So my first activation, I am going to spend 2 power to do a group shoot with these guys. That allows them a move action and a shoot action. So this guy is going to move there. So again, making sure I'm not 3 inches close to that one. And then they are both going to shoot 1 onto each of these zombies in front of them. Now, they only get 2 dice base and they hit on 5. So I'm actually going to spend a power on each of them to give them 3 dice each against each of those zombies. So that's a bit of a power expenditure, but you know, we want to take these out because if they go, suddenly that field becomes very open and my Abyssal Warlock can then do something more interesting, I think. I did contemplate still doing that move we talked about before and zapping them both along the line, but actually these guys can probably do it more efficiently, I think. And I got a lot of power this turn. So first one, firing at this one, you're going to need 5, this one on camera, try and do it on 5. So you've got 2 at the minute with an 8 there, 2. And it's piercing 1. Oh, actually, hang on. They're in the open, aren't they? It's a clear shot.
You get another one.
No, I didn't hit the other one.
And the zombies are 7, so piercing 1, they need 8.
That's that one dead. I probably didn't need those power dice then, did I? Didn't think about that. So the second one will also now be firing 4 because they are in the open. Oh, right, he gets 3, and one of those is an 8, so 3. And again, saving on 8, wasn't it?
So I only need 3 8s.
Yeah, so I think I wasted some power there, but that doesn't matter too much. I have blown them away, which is fine. And like I said, I've still got 4 power left this turn, so I'm not too worried about having done that. But it was perhaps unnecessary, and they are activated.
So the werewolf is going to kill the gargoyle, I hope. 4 dice, +1 dice for him being knocked down, and I get +1 dice I think as well because I have bloodlust, which means anytime I'm attacking a wounded...
I'm not wounded, am I?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I am, aren't I?
Yeah. I get 1 bonus dice. So I'm on melee 4.
There's a cocked one there.
Could have been, well, let's take that as 1. So 3 hits at crush 2.
Okay, so my defense armour is normally 6s, so I can only save on 8s. Nothing. So he is dead. And because he was already knocked down, he doesn't benefit from anything other than just death. So follow-up move?
So follow-up move...
Only 3 inches, mate, what are you doing? Sitting pretty on the objective. Now the werewolf is gone, I'm going to fight with my Abyssal guard here. So he will start with 2 dice. We have an extra one for a friend in the combat, which will give me 3 and try and take down the revenant. I'm going to throw an extra dice at that as well. So spend a power to add 1 extra to that to give me a total of 4. I am hitting on 5s. Rubbish. So that's just 1. So would you like to roll for your armour save? A crushing 1 though.
So 5s. Yeah.
Right. Well, that was fun then, wasn't it?
So I think I have 2 dice for the Wraith, and then +1 of having a friend in the combat.
Yep, so that's attacking my Succubi. What does the Wraith hit on?
The Wraith hits on 5s, I think.
Yeah, 5 seems to be the number. Ouch. 2 at the minute with an 8. 3. Okay,
and
any crushing?
Crush 1.
And she's a Succubi, so only saves on 6s, unfortunately. Oh, okay. She saved... Oh no, crush 1.
Yeah.
That takes her to 0. Okay, so she now will have to make a nerve roll.
Did she get inspiring of...
She does get inspiring, which gives me a +1 to it, doesn't it? So my nerve is normally 5, so I need a 4+. Oh, overzealous, but we got it. So she is knocked down and activated.
And fatigued.
And fatigued, which is all bad. However, she isn't dead. And if she were to stand up later, she would be in a much better situation. So the Tormentor is going to attack that Revenant who won't die. So I get 4 dice, 1 for a friend, and I will be fighting on 3s. That's pretty good. So we've got all of those at the minute, and an 8. So we have got 5. So that's 5 hits. He is crushing 2.
Ouch.
So the Revenant normally survives with an armour of 4+, so that will be 6+. So he better die.
Oops. 6s.
That is 1 dead Revenant.
Yep.
Because it's lots of kills and it's beyond the amount. So this is all about whether he can potentially survive. He has to go down to 0 wounds, and that was well beyond 0 wounds, and that's why he died outright. I will then make a follow-up move and join in this attack here onto that Wraith. So Kev has just run this skeleton off of the objective and then fatigued him to walk into combat with my Abyssal Warlock, which is a bit irritating. So I am actually going to do so, just mainly show off the rule mechanics. So I am going to disengage, which is a long action, and that means I have to make 1 armour save per person who's in combat with me, with no modifiers at all. So my armour is 6+, so we're going to make that. I didn't do that, so I take a wound, but I do get to disengage, and now I will spend a fatigue action to fireball him in the face. So it cost me 1 power dice to do that fatigue action. It's a clear shot, so I will get to 2 normal ones for fireball and then a bonus one because it's a clear shot. So I need 5s on my 3 dice. Oh, for the love of...
One?
Just 1. So normal skeleton's armour save is...
5. Do you got piercing?
No piercing.
1.
Oh, there's a wound. Is that enough to kill a skeleton?
Yeah, it's a grunt.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm happy with that. And so that was a fatigue action, so I'm marked as fatigued, and I did take a wound, unfortunately, as well. Well,
so the zombie is going to attack the flawed succubine. So the zombie rolls 2 dice on 6s. I get a bonus 1 for a friend and 1 for a knockdown model, and I will put an extra dice in.
using a power point.
Using a power.
Oh, wow.
1 8.
So that's, what, 5, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This might be one very dead succubi, as they normally survive on a 6, but because she's knocked down, it counts as a rear attack, so she's going to need 7s. Oh, we got 1, but she's very dead. 1 dead succubi. Really quite annoying.
And I'll follow up into here, I think.
Yeah, didn't have anywhere else to go, did you?
Yeah.
So my next activation is, now I've got my gargoyle has been attacked. She was going to attack the wraith in front of her, but now there's zombies here. Actually, I do need to get rid of him. So I'm going to attack against the zombie, and I am going to spend 1 power to gain 1 extra dice. So I will have 3 dice, and I will be hitting on 5s. And I got 1. Okay, so would you like to roll your armour, Kev?
So I'm going to burn a dice just to throw an extra dice. Burn a power point to get an extra dice. No crushing.
No crushing, so what's your armour?
So I think I'm on 7s.
Sounds like a zombie's armour.
Oh, I'm a 7, yeah. No!
Neither, so 1 dead zombie. So actually that worked quite well. She is activated and she'll stay engaged with that wraith. And then next turn I'm hoping they'll be able to do some damage on it, but it does have a very high, very good armour, I should say. So the last few things for that round, this skeleton just repositioned behind a building, hoping I think to jump on the objective later but stay alive till then. Mortibrus as a necromancer moved forwards there, and this skeleton ran and then fatigued to engage my abyssal guard, so to stop him basically from charging into the necromancer. So at the end of the turn there's going to be anything else to do in the upkeep phase. I am going to spend a power to take off that a fatigue point. Anything else you're going to do, Kev?
I'm going to spend a power to take a fatigue off.
Off that skeleton we just mentioned there. And that is the end of round 3. Start of round 4. This is the first time I did poorly on my power roll, so I only got 4, even with a re-roll, and Kev got 5.
So unfortunately I'm now down to below half strength, so that would normally mean my warband is broken and needs to start taking nerve tests. However, the undead don't think like that, so they have a special rule that says they don't get broken when they're down below half strength.
But only when their command model dies.
Yeah, instead they're broken if the necromancer who's keeping them all up dies.
And the only model we've got, yeah, obviously, is this necromancer here. Now, my faction, I have lost 5, but I have got 6 left, so I am just about okay as well, but next turn obviously might be different. So my first activation is going to be with my Tormentor, who is going to try and take down this Wraith, because I know the Wraith's got good defense. So I will get 4 dice base. I will then get 1 extra for a friend, and I'm going to spend a power dice to gain 1 extra as well. You can only spend a maximum of 1 power per fight to get 1 extra dice. You can't get more than that, unfortunately. In Dead Zone, if you use the command dice, if you remember that game, then you can have as many as you have. But obviously that would be a broken mechanic when you could have potentially 7 or 8 in a round. So I am going to fight her. I am in her rear, which will mean that I didn't charge this turn, so I don't get extra dice for that, but I will affect her armour by an extra point because I started in her rear. And also I've got crushing 2, so effectively I'll be on crushing 3. So her armour of 3+ will go to 6+, so I've got a real chance of taking her down, I think. So I need to hit though on 3s first. And that's good. So they all went in. So I didn't see that one over there. So that is 2, 4, 6 dice. So 6 armour saves of 6 plus.
So for the sake of it, I will burn an extra dice.
So Kev spent an extra power dice and increased the chances of surviving.
So I'm hoping for some 8s.
There is an 8, but there's lots of 1s and 2s as well.
So I need to chain some 8s. Whoops.
Oh Christ.
No.
No, so 2. So 6 went through, 2 got saved. How many wounds does she have?
She has 2.
So she is
that's the end
completely destroyed. Oh, that's quite handy. And I will reposition my follow-up and I will support this guy. Right.
Which is why I moved him up.
Kev, what are you doing?
So, Mortibris is fed up. He's going to lightning bolt this gargoyle.
What?
I'm going to use the boosted version of it, so that costs 2 power. And that turns it into an area of effect spell. So not only will I blast the gargoyle, but then I'll also clip the
Tormentor.
The Tormentor, because he's also in range.
So it'd be more powerful against the gargoyle, but you will do some potential damage against the.
So I think for the sake of it, I'm going to throw an extra dice with the initial lightning bolt.
Yeah, I would assume you can't modify the area effect. We'll make that assumption.
Well, I would assume I can't throw another dice in for the area.
Yeah.
Okay, so the lightning bolt is on
A range stat for your necromancer
which is 5s.
Okay, seems to be pretty standard having 5s. So
that's
3 hits.
3 hits. I have marksman, which I think
Reroll the 1. Yeah.
means I can reroll the 1.
So that's marksman on the spell, not on necromancer.
Not on the yeah. And it's piercing 1.
Right, and my defense is my armor. I should say. I keep saying defense, don't I? Sorry, too many dead zone bits hanging over. Is 6 plus, so I'm on 7 plus. So this could well be a dead gargoyle here, and it is. What a surprise! So 1 dead gargoyle. So that was good.
So now I get to make a 2d8 attack for the area of effect.
So 2d8 on 5s, and you got 1 hit there. I get to save from my tormentor. His armor is 5 plus. So he does take a wound. He does have a regenerate, so I can spend a power at any point to burn that off for him. And that's the end of that activation. So for my next activation, I moved one of these flame bearers up. He ran to stand on the central objective. That required... Then I'm going to do a fatigue action with him to make a shoot against the necromancer in the open. So that gives me a bonus 1 dice. And then I used a power to give him another bonus dice, so I will be rolling 4 on 5 pluses. Oh, that's what we like. Look at that. So that's 3 at the minute with an 8. Just 3. It is piercing 1.
And I'm armor 4, so armor 5. Sorry, so 6s.
Oh dear! How many wounds does he have?
He has 3.
He has 3 wounds, so it takes him down to 0. So it's a nerve check.
And
See
his
if he
nerve
dies.
is 5.
All right.
No!
Oh, he's dead! He's dead!
Mortibris bites the dust.
1 shot from a flame bearer. Well done, MVP! Fantastic. So Kev has decided to go all in, so his werewolf is charged from this objective all the way across to that guy who's just taken out the necromancer. He's going to be fighting over an obstacle, so he doesn't get the +1 dice for that. But he starts with 4 and he spent a power to throw 1 extra in there. And you're hitting on 4s, is it?
Hit him on 4s.
Ooh, 2 misses, but an 8 in there.
I'm vicious, so I get to reroll that, and an 8, I get to reroll that.
Yeah. Another 8. Right, that's a lot. So I shall be rolling those to survive. But what you've got some crushing 2, isn't it?
Crushing 2, yes.
Okay, and I will therefore be rolling. Well, I need 8 pluses. I actually need 9 pluses, but I think we can do 8 is always a success. But I didn't get any, so that is 1 dead flame bearer. So my next activation, I think I've already lost actually. I don't think there's anything I can really do about this, but I am going to use this Abyssal Guard to fight that skeleton in front of him. So he starts with 3 and he gets an extra bonus dice for having a friend in the combat with him. So he is a guard, so he fights on 5 pluses. And he gets 2. So it's crushing 1 for an Abyssal Guard, so Skeleton's defence wasn't too bad.
6, I think. Was it, or 5?
I think it was 5. Let's see.
5. So 6
it goes to 6s. It saves 1 but then dies. And because he's a grunt, that will kill him. I can then make a 3-inch follow-up move, which I'm going to move into engage this. Now, we do have a little bit of an issue here in that the base size for the werewolf is larger than the objective, which means that Kevin's positioned him completely over the objective, which seems a little bit unfair because I am in base-to-base contact with him, and as the rules as they are at the moment say that I can't contest that objective, so therefore just by sitting on it and surviving, Kev will win the game on that. So I'm all right with losing the game, but that seems like we
need a clarification.
Yeah, I think if I'm engaged, it would make sense that
you would.
That's what you would do in Kings of War, for instance. Yeah. That would still be contested. So anyway, that's one to think on later. So Kevin's just moved his last skeleton into the open. It's his last activation, so he had no real choice and leaves me with 2 models who are now just going to do a shooting gallery of trying to blast him off of there. Because if I can get him off there, then obviously Kev will still win by having the central one, unless this were to be sort of changed as a rule to be contested, in which case it would be a draw. I can't win because I can't get anyone to this objective, and although I can shoot him off, if I shoot him off with one guy, then the other guy could actually just about get there. But anyway, let's see how we get on. So this Efreet has just moved forwards, and then he's going to fireball onto the skeletons. He's spending 1 power to give him an extra dice to his fireball, so it gives me 3 now, and I'm hitting on 5s. 3 hits, so that will do. There's no piercing, so it's just a normal save of 5+.
I need to repeat that.
Oh, he's got 2. If he gets this other one, he'll be fine. Ah! So the skeleton survives the fireball. Right, now I just have this Abyssal flame bearer, so I guess he's just going to go forwards, going to hop over the wall, and then I'll do the same. And it'll be 2 dice normally. I'll spend my last power dice, which is there, to again give me 3 dice on 5s. This is piercing 1 actually, so maybe I should have done this first. And we get 2.
So 6s.
6s this time. Saves 1, dies, so he is dead. So actually, if I had done it the other way around, that would have made more sense. And then the Efreet, he is an Efreet model, but the Abyssal Warlock could have actually moved on to that. But either way, the final result is going to be that we're not going to... It's the end of round 4. So actually we're at the start of round 5, and we've realised that actually I hadn't lost the game because it's all about nerve now. So because the command model for the undead is dead, Kev's faction is broken, which means that all unengaged models must make a nerve test. But because I moved my stupid flipping Abyssal Guard into combat with this werewolf, he doesn't need to make a nerve check, which means he's no chance of falling back. So that's very frustrating on my part. I, however, am also broken because now I only have 4 models left. So everyone on my side, except that Abyssal Guard, will now have to make a nerve check to fall back. So I have... by not knowing the rules, because we're playing them first time, there wasn't a high chance of that werewolf sort of falling back, but if he had, his nerve is 4+, then I would have probably won the game, because it's likely I would keep at least 1 or 2 of these models from falling back. So anyway, we'll do quickly some fallback rolls. We have to do them as we activate, so I get to activate first, so... no, Kev gets to activate first, because he finished first, so he has to do his werewolf anyway. His werewolf is in combat. So, at start turn 5, I only managed to get 3 power, and Kev only got 1, because he doesn't get his white ones now, because his command model is dead. So Kev gets to activate first, because he finished the first at the start of the round. He can only really do one thing, which is to fight. So what are you going to do with this?
So I'm going to fight 4 dice, I'm going to throw in an extra dice.
Yeah, so he's going to throw in his 1 power to give him 1 extra dice, and he's going to fight my Abyssal Guard.
On 4+.
Rerolling 1s.
Rerolling 1s for vicious.
That's 4. These are nasty, aren't they? And it's crushing 2. And I have a armour of 4+ though, so 6. Oh, that will be dead. So that is one very dead Abyssal Guard and one activated Werewolf. Now everything on my side will have to make a test before it can do anything. So actually, I'm going to try and kill this Werewolf actually. So I'm going to activate the... do you know what? I'm going to try and shoot him because their nerve will be boosted by his presence. So I'm going to activate the Tormentor first. So he needs to make a nerve test. His is 5+. So 5+ to see if he doesn't fall back. Whew, he's okay. He is just going to move over here. By moving over there, he is actually now going to be giving leadership to these two guys, and they will get a better nerve roll.
They get to re-roll.
Yeah, it would have been nice to charge him into combat and fight that guy, but you know, if these guys go, do you know what, maybe that would have been better. But shall we do that?
He's a beast in combat.
He is a beast in combat. Do you know what? We're going to do that. I'm going to do that. So he's going to charge into combat. I am going to get 4 dice. I am going to throw 1 extra dice into it. It is a charge. You're not actually that side.
I can't claim to be defending.
Yeah. So actually, I'll get extra dice for that. So I'll be rolling 6 dice. So I am fighting on 3 pluses. This is a real beast off, isn't it? The 2 best fighters in the game going head to head. Right. Oh, that'll be hits. I actually need another one. We're actually going to have to use a white one on that.
Oh no!
We're running out of dice. That is a miss, though. So that's a lot of hits. I am crushing 2.
Oh my word. So the werewolf is armor 5. So I'm looking for 7.
Oh, this was the right move, Eddie. Yeah. This was definitely the right move. Oh, he only got 1. Oh, and I will consolidate onto the central objective and winning the game not only by holding the objective, but also there's no one left on Kem's army.
It's just me.
Right. Well, that was fantastic, wasn't it? I mean, I don't think... That was a very swingy game, it seemed. I certainly thought I was losing at certain points, and even at the end there, you know, he's such a beast, that Tormentor. I mean, basically he won the game on 1 fight. And if I hadn't done that, I was thinking of boosting those other guys. I'd have lost. But yeah, I mean, how did you think the game went? Was it?
It's a lot of fun. It's I think I made some mistakes early on, and I let you shoot my zombies off the board.
Yeah.
Didn't get to use their special rule, which is...
because their special rule, the mob rule, allows them to get crushing strength for each model that you've got in the fight. We played one game before, and I saw how devastating that could be, so I didn't want that to happen. But obviously they were also coming against my shooting one, so I had the option then of doing something else to deal with them. Yeah. You did a really good job of locking me down early on though. I was sort of reacting to you completely with my little sort of group of Abyssal Guard. They were sort of really couldn't do a lot other than to sort of slowly plough through these undead. And I think, you know, I guess actually, you know, it was lucky to take your commander off, your necromancer off. That was a pretty lucky dice roll, really. If that hadn't happened, then I don't think I'd have been in a position to really end up as we were, because you could have done a few other things. I think you turned your lightning bolts and stuff.
Well, possibly, because your Abyssal champion was wounded at the end.
Yeah, he was.
So I might have had a good chance at him. Yeah. But the other thing is, using the command dice well is so important. There were a couple of rounds where I ended up effectively wasting a power dice, because I had 1 left at the end. Which you need to make sure you don't do that. Yeah, you can always use it to fatigue someone and then take off the power dice. And I think as well, like adding a dice to a combat as well. I mean, you can only add 1, but it is quite a benefit if you can do it. And if you've got them just sitting there not being used, they all get re-rolled at the start of each turn anyway. And we got quite lucky in the middle part of the game where we had a lot of power each, and we had sort of 6s and 7s for power each. And in that very last round, actually, both of us had very few, but actually had a few models left by then. So I think I had 3 and you had 1 or something in that last round. So, but the power dice can be really powerful. But also,
because you can use them for lots of generic things, like your group actions, to burn off your fatigue, to aid your combats or your shoots. But actually there's loads of special rules as well. So there's your Warband special rule, which I didn't even use actually.
What was your Warband special?
Which is Fury, but I didn't even use it. Then I have another one which I really did want to use, but we didn't get to, which is a Demonic Roar, which is on my Tormentor. So that is a really smart one in that basically if anyone attacks him in a fight, and Kevin never bothered to attack him,
no, because I knew about it.
He just engaged me and then stood back. That would have allowed me to make their attacking model make a nerve check at -1, and if it had failed that, he'd hit me on 7s. So if you imagine that werewolf having come into me, failing his nerve check, and then hit me on 7s when he's normally hit me on 4s, I mean, you'd be laughing in his face, wouldn't you? But I didn't get to use that. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Yeah, there will be a next time. This is a great game.
Yeah, so I think you can see that we were enjoying it. You can see that it swung quite a lot. I think, you know, we probably made a few mistakes, but we certainly had a lot of fun doing it. And you know, it's a good mechanic. The Exploding Gates is fun. The power dice are really good. I think we need a lot more scenarios, of course, and I think that's going to be a key thing for how the game develops. But it's certainly a lot of fun, and it's great. So well done, fantastic. Thank you, Mantic, and we'll hopefully get back to you with some more battle reports in the future. So you'll see we have other battle reports for other game systems as well. So please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other stuff. Check out our Facebook page for Way to Fire, and also come and listen to us on the Way to Fire podcast. So thanks very much, guys. Thanks for watching.
See ya.